Hi, everyone. Happy Monday and Merry Christmas to you. Welcome to Jodi Tiahrt TV on WCOBM. I'm your host, Jodi Tiahrt. I'm very excited today. I have a guest that I've known for, I'm trying to think, about 7 years now. We were actually co-workers. He became a good friend, a mentor, and he is being Skyped in all the way from Philly. So welcome, Tommaso Mastrocola. Hi, Tom. Can you hear me?
Hi, Jodi.
Can you see me? Okay. Hi. I haven't seen you live in a while.
Oh.
So a little bit about Tommaso. He is the vice president of Elchem Life USA, and he has been in the fitness industry for quite some time now. He started off as a competitor himself and ventured out, has worked and branded many different nutrition companies out there, and obviously he has helped me guide me along my journey with my protein bar company as well. So thanks, Tom, for being here today and joining me on my live show. And can you tell us a little bit about yourself? Where you're from, your family, wife, kids, everything.
Okay, so thank you very much. I was very happy that you reached out to me the other day, and it's a pleasure. I guess I'm not one for that lacks words, so just stop me when you want. But
It's all good.
I guess the whole journey started for me. I guess around 14, 15 years old. Falling in love with the iron game, and just basically diving in 100%. It's my first. I went to college for exercise science and kinesiology, but I started working as an assistant field territory manager and a demo specialist for back in the late 90s EAS. And
wow, EAS.
Lucky for me, my big break was with EAS because they went to their field distribution team,
Yes.
and I wound up jumping right from school to working with a great. I mean, you couldn't have picked a greater team to jump in and start working with. So
Absolutely.
that was where it started. And from there, I've been very privileged to have been a participant, a role player with some pretty meteoric, growth mindset individuals and companies and teams. And our work with Quest would probably absolutely fall at the top of the list. Yeah, definitely. So for me, in my early 20s, I competed. I was always a bit of an oddball for the competitive circles at the time because, I never wanted to gain massive amounts of weight in the off season.
Right.
I always wanted to be able to play competitive sports too, which soccer is my sport. And I generally always found myself more in love with the lifestyle of, natural lifestyle, natural living. Like, you're more. I was always more granola, but yet I was absolutely in love with the physical culture game.
Yeah.
So I would always go back and forth. But having my career in sports nutrition and nutraceuticals, what I've kind of prided myself on and really embraced with my career working with brands was to be a person that helped innovative sports nutrition brands move into the natural space and make the moves and the branding moves and the product moves to make their
Right.
product more acceptable to that audience, and vice versa. And that was my role with Quest, was really nothing needed to be added to the secret sauce, the recipe there. All I was trying to do and all I did was kind of steer them in a direction where they weren't excluding people. So my primary role while I was a sales director was also to develop relationships and steer the brand into the natural channel.
Right. Little background to our audience out there. I met Tommaso through Quest. We both started working for Quest Nutrition back in, I want to say 2011. And I was obviously living in LA at the time, and Tommaso was in Philly, but we saw each other at many shows, talked for numerous hours every single day, and you definitely were my mentor through everything, just learning about the industry and making that transition from being an athlete competitor to now being holding a position in a nutrition company and learning everything. But Tommaso was responsible for getting Quest Nutrition out there into Whole Foods, the vitamin shops, the GNCs, Sprouts. So you were a huge component in their success. And I honestly don't think that not only Quest, but I know you've worked for many other companies, could have branded out there without you. So you're pretty amazing.
No. And I really appreciate that. And I really, like, humbly, don't accept
Sorry.
it. But I would say that, what I try to tell people, and, I have friends, I have people that are way smarter than I that work in the business. And what I've learned, I guess you could say, over the years and of more recent years, and it's personal development constantly, is that you cannot take responsibility for the result. And what I mean by that is the only thing you can bring to the table is empathy, generosity, and honestly caring about being really specific about who you're doing what you're doing for. And at the end of the day, success or failure is actually outside your realm of control. And because I've worked with some phenomenal products over the years that were innovative, that ownership really cared. And guess what? The market wasn't ready for what they wanted to deliver.
Right.
And it has to be a little bit of that, from the movie, The Perfect Storm. Timing is a lot of it. Need in a given community is part of it. I do believe that while we can fake the funk and try to appeal to an audience that we really don't give a damn about, eventually the curtain is drawn and they're going to find out that, the emperor has no clothes. So at the end of the day, you really have to care.
Yeah.
What I will say is for Quest benefit, having you and Shannon on the front end of that brand, truthfully, is what propelled it. And having the work that you did with events. Look, I tell this story all the time. I remember in working the Arnold Classic with you back in 2012. And I give this story to any time I'm in a room with a big leaguer who wants to throw money around. I tell them, here's what I have to tell you. We were across from an unnamed, you remember, the brand with megaphones, the biggest loser, the whole deal.
Yes.
They had a block-long booth, gave away samples, shotgunning T-shirts into the air, crowds backed up knocking over our table, and we had a 10-foot table. It was me, you, and the girl from Chicago, I forget the competitor's name, something Mac, right?
Oh, yes. Yes.
Right? And it was the three of us. We had boxes stacked and a laptop, a Dell laptop with a email capture sitting on top. And guess what? When we walked out of that show, I remember you the first day with stiletto heel or boots with a stiletto heel. We couldn't stand. We were just giving out. It was pretty simple. Give a damn about the people coming. Give them a bar for an email address. Give them a bar for an email, sometimes 3-4 bars. And what I noticed then was that it was a funny trend because the actual community, the competitors, were coming to our booth, not just consumers. So that was a big tell because they're going to have more weight with the viral spread. But the other thing was that from a standpoint of Tom, Ron, and Mike, they were not from this industry, but they understood data. And you know what we did? The booth across the way walked out high-fiving and celebrating that they won the battle of the day, but we won the war because while they were doing that and they were shooting their load, spending money, we ran a modest booth and we just kept cranking the data. And guess what? Show after show and after vitamin shop event and after private gym event, all these things that you curated and you managed with these fitness competitors, the only thing coming back wasn't jamming it down their throat to sell something. It was always just for the email list that you entered and you entered and you entered. So after, brands need to have a bit of patience when they're developing it. First thing you have to do is you have to identify something that's needed out there and wanted. All right, that's key. But then once you do that, you got to get in front of it. I truly believe. And you have to be generous, but you also have to be patient. Yeah. Because if anything worth it isn't going to, guess what? Hype could take it overnight and blow it up. But most of the time that doesn't happen. So while all these brands were doing their thing, most of those brands, if you go to the shows now, don't even exist. all right, or on the ropes, trying to get more funding because they think it's all about just having 1 more gram of protein when that's never been it.
Right.
And then you had Quest, what they did was you just kept accruing. And let me tell you, in the age of connectivity, what retailers and brands sometimes don't like to hear is that, the closer the brand's relationship can be to the end community, if that customer over there is someone that I want to be in a relationship with and provide a service, then I think it's the brand's pinnacle responsibility to develop the relationship one-on-one.
Right. So I have a question about brand development. I get asked this a lot, and I think because we both started off as competitors, and there comes a point in time where you're like, okay, it's time for me to hang up the posing trunks, hang up the posing suits, and build my own brands. And most of us are scared to do it. And obviously you did it, reaching out with helping other companies and everything. And do you have any advice to give to our audience on brand development, how to get started, how to make that transition? Because people ask me all the time.
One is that I'm a bit of a chicken shit, and you're doing it right now. The real branding that has to be done is personal brand, aside from a product.
Yes.
And what you're doing, it's a huge risk putting yourself out there like you're doing.
Absolutely.
And I've been skirting around ideas for doing a podcast myself for over a year and a half. And I have every reason in the world not to do it, and I know I need to do it. But that being said, it's like, putting yourself out there, using the platforms that are out there to give to a community and to provide, what I call clickable data.
Yeah.
Because everybody can post a great picture.
Absolutely.
Everybody can find a way to do, but it's about, it's deeper than that now because we're no longer in, we don't have there's not a loss for influencers. So the people who want to influence need to bring something to the table. So, and as far as, you just need to put your priorities in check. For me, I competed in my early 20s, and it was weird because I had a moment, and the moment was actually in Pittsburgh at, the Pittsburgh Pro with Jim Mannion runs. It's a great show, and they're great folks. But I was kind of babysitting a couple pro bodybuilders at the time, and I started asking questions, and these guys were not like bottom barrel guys. They had won some shows, placed well, and when I was just I was already kind of sort of like the oddball for being a competitive physique athlete because I really wasn't drinking the Kool-Aid, but when I saw like what their day was like, and that they really, and the biggest thing for me honestly was, and people are ashamed to admit it in today's modern era because everybody wants to sound PC, but I wanted to make a lot of fucking money. So sorry, I wanted to make money, and I knew I wasn't going to make money doing that.
Exactly.
And when I see people now, I used to say it more crassly, and I don't as much anymore. But I used to say I would never hire a bodybuilder.
Me too.
And I don't mean that.
Sorry.
What I mean is that you just need to have your priorities straight.
Yeah. I agree 100% with that. Nothing against my fitness friends, but obviously competing, and we both know it, you have to be very selfish, you have to be very focused, and when you're trying to build your brand, you need to put 100% into that. You need to have all your ducks in a row, and really, like you said, and just throw yourself out there. And that's what I had to do. And it was scary, I'll be honest. I still get scared at times, but it's one day at a time. So
it is. It's but I mean, you're really doing it. I mean, like you're in there grinding, actually making product. I mean,
grinding, yeah.
Exactly. But it's funny because I find myself now really, really, really trying to deconstruct. When I talk to even like I know a lot of entrepreneurs that are doing remarkable work out there, and and I feel that my way of giving back is to help individuals like that as much as possible, not from a monetary standpoint at all, but from you want to see the good guys win. And you know what I mean, but at the same time the one thing I always try to give them is that we sometimes chase what we think is going to make us happy, and it makes us miserable. And
I agree.
there is a right
Yes, 100%.
because
Yep.
there's with money especially there's enough, and then there's how much is enough, and then once you have enough, then what's the next step? And I mean, like, you know the word that I get scared the most when I see a remarkable product like yours is scale, because it's so hard to scale remarkable. And
Yeah.
and honestly, that's why Quest was so impressive, is because I, I mean, through those early years, it was 100% hands on for all of it. And I know that things change and everything else, and they hit that mass and a tipping point and the whole deal, and wonderful. But the market at this point is doesn't need another Quest knockoff, and that's why products like what you're producing and you're doing, you have to really sit back and think of what it is you need or where it is you want to go with it,
Right.
because you have to be really guarded that you're not going to chase ubiquity and wind up sacrificing the remarkable nature of what you're doing.
Right. I agree with that. And I also believe that, in this world, everybody's going to create new products and have a new awesome brand out there. But at the same time, there's room for all of us to make it to the finish line. And, it's about, like you said, supporting one another and, learning and growing as we do along the way.
I think what powers you and me when we always would talk is we're both consumers. So
Right.
at the end of everything, I still get geeked up when I see a product that looks exciting.
Yeah.
I still will go to, I'll run to a vitamin shop, or I'll pop on Amazon and buy something, obscure. And I
Me
love
too.
like just those oddball, like neat, unique story behind the product. I mean, I'm big into keto stuff. So
Yeah.
there's a fat coffee. I actually believe he's based out of Philadelphia somewhere, but it's a clarified ghee with MCT, and they're flavored, and I'll
Oh,
pop one,
nice.
and I can only find them on Amazon right now, but pretty cool product.
Yeah.
So
Yeah. So my question for you, as like you said, you started off as a competitive bodybuilder and you ventured out, and moving forward, now you're with Alchem Life USA.
mhm.
Tell us a little bit about that company and about it and your position and what you got going on with that.
Okay, so first thing, like when we're looking at a brand, all right. So the question is always going to be geared towards what community that they are. First of all, who is it that they're making their products, or doing their creating
Right.
what they're doing for, and then you have to determine from that is like is it an existential need, or is it a want and desire? For instance, like Quest Nutrition and all those decadent flavors and the story around it. And that's a want and desire.
Right.
All right. We're going the complete opposite angle. A group reached out to me and introduced me to the Meta family, which are based out of New Delhi. Well, actually, they're based. Mr. Meta is global. We have offices in, I believe, 8 countries.
Oh, wow.
It's a 75-year brand, and the brand has been doing phyto extraction for use in pharmaceuticals and
Okay.
nutraceuticals for over 75 years. So their core of their business is in plant-derived extractives and extraction and
Nice.
proprietary extraction processes. So, there are deep relationships with, very esteemed scientists, actually 2 of which are based in Italy, and the ownership group of our company. And, looking at the shift in the market for ingredients moving to commodity, with a lot of, ingredients coming from other places, what they knew was that this brand, they didn't want to stay in that game. It was never about producing, for price. It was about producing for quality and efficacy. So there had been some formularies that they had developed over the years that they decided, I guess it was about 8 years ago, that let's put these formulas together, And before we do anything with them, let's put them to clinical trials. Let's put them to clinical trials in Italy. I believe some in India as well. And what you have at the end of the day is a line of products that fits an existential need. And I'll get into a kind of a story about how it works in the mindset.
Okay.
But what you have is you have a line of products that are more geared towards that 40 plus demographic.
Right.
And it's meant to really be a solutions brand. With products that cover everything from, cold and seasonal issues to joint issues to liver, to prostate. And we're in the process now of launching the brand, and it's difficult because you have a marketplace where you're in what they call a long tail economy. We don't lack for variety, but the problem is that the products we are purchasing a lot of times in many of these retailers are hinging off of stories that are more about wants and desires. And what I mean is that I'll use myself as an example. I've just turned 46. If I go to the doctor, let's say I come out and the doctor gives me an exam and gives me the fun exam, and I come out and he says, you have an elevated prostate and you're at the point where it could be critical. So we need to do something about it. You need to really step up, and then you need to come back in 3 months. Well, when I leave, the story I'm telling myself when I'm looking for a product to help me is totally different than that person who's been eating and shopping at Whole Foods for 20 years, and they want to be proactive and take a prostate formula that is grown on organic farms in Oregon. Like, I want a product that has some validation behind it. Right. That I can at least have a reassurance behind the brand that there are published clinicals on the finished formula that, what I'm taking is going to elicit an effect, not just a feeling. Right. So that's what we're trying to deliver. We're trying to deliver products for people that, are hinged upon delivering results. Right. So, so that's kind of a little condensed summary of what we're doing. But it's a full range of products. We'll be at 6 products in the U.S. market. We're just going through the pains of launching our website and then revising and working with Amazon initially. And, there's a lot that goes into it on the front end when you're building a brand, when you know where you want to go. And this is where brands have let down retailers. And if you want me to stop at this, let me know. But something I definitely would like to jump into a little bit would be what I call the Amazon effect, and how it's been evolving for a long time.
Let's go ahead and take a short little break. And when we come back, we are going to talk all about the Amazon effect. So we will see you in a few minutes.